It is August the 5th, 1782. The Transkei coast awakens to a sunny, still morning. The wild sea that had torn the Grosvenor apart the previous day now laps gently against the rocks, as if feigning innocence. Perched on a grassy ridge overlooking the ocean, William Jose sits with his family, the cool breeze against his salt-chapped face a welcome relief to the suffocating confinement within the ship's cabin. His gaze sweeps over the scene, seeking a flicker of the tranquility this coastline might have offered under happier circumstances. Verdant ravines carve paths through undulating hills, where the simple homes of the local people nestle. A tranquil lagoon lies at the foot of a small cliff, its stillness broken only by the chirping chorus of morning birds. A flat beach extends towards a distant rocky outcrop, the meeting point of the lagoon and the vast ocean. Yet, the serene landscape offers no peace against the gnawing turmoil within him. The stark reality of the shipwreck descends upon Jose, a cold, heavy weight. His fingers instinctively find the small silk packet tucked inside his coat, the diamonds, a fragile beacon of hope in this burgeoning catastrophe. His wife, his daughter, and little Thomas Chambers are alive, and a silent prayer of gratitude rises within him. But the relief is fleeting, quickly overshadowed by the weight of his recent choices. His desperate flight from India, a journey meant to save them from a hostile world, has led them to this treacherous shore, a decision that now feels like a lifelong curse. George Williams and John Taylor, merchant partners in their 40s, stand on a nearby grassy ridge, their faces painted with despair. Bound by family ties and a shared history of ambitious ventures, they survey the wreckage of their dreams scattered across the coastline. For decades, they had journeyed around the world, trading commodities from distant lands and building a small fortune through tireless effort and shrewd dealings. Their entire life's work, every hard-earned coin, was risked on this ill-fated voyage aboard the Grosvenor. They had exchanged the majority of their wealth for a precious cargo of bales of silk, believing this investment would secure their financial future. Now, they watch in sorrow as their valuable silk bales, once symbols of their prosperity, drift in the shallows like lifeless jellyfish. Their long journey, a testament to their ambition and hard work across countless continents, has abruptly ended here, shipwrecked on a coastline they had desperately sought to avoid. Captain Coxon, a figure diminished by the wreck, paces the sand. The boundless ocean, his former dominion, now an alien force that strips him of his authority. Every breaking wave seems to mock the power he once held. The Indian Lascar sailors, their senses keen to his shifting demeanor, are already considering their own prospects. Their respect for their captain has dissipated, replaced by a growing conviction that survival lies in their own hands. Coxon, fearful of outright defiance, resorts to threats, warning them of certain slavery if they reach the European settlements alone. Only through unity, he insists, can they hope for a safe return. His words hold them in check for now, but the air vibrates with unspoken dissent, and Coxon feels the tenuous thread of his leadership fraying. Despite his diminished authority, Coxon addresses the huddled survivors. He draws a wavering line in the sand with his boot heel. His voice, strained but meant to project confidence, states that they are somewhere between Delagoa Bay, far to the north, and the distant Cape Colony in the south. The precise where hangs unspoken, a heavy question mark in the salty air. William Haberley, echoing a gesture from a local forager the previous day, points northward, a movement that now holds unsettling significance. Others, their hopes clinging to the remnants of the captain's bearing, look south. Coxon, oblivious or willfully ignorant of their doubts, declares the Cape a mere 200 miles away. 18 days, he announces, his voice resonating with forced optimism, and we will reach Christian lands." But his words settle like a leaden weight. The jagged outline of the Grosvenor's shattered hull, a stark silhouette against the restless waves, serves as a brutal reminder of his recent catastrophic misjudgment. Few dare to voice their skepticism, yet the memory is a palpable presence, a shadow over his every pronouncement. They cling to his words, desperate for the salvation he promises, but unaware of the fatal inaccuracy of his reckoning. The captain's internal compass, clouded by wishful thinking and a desperate need to appear in control, points them not towards rescue, but towards a far greater and more insidious peril, over 600 kilometers distant from any Dutch settlement. Chapter 4: Costly Calls. The decision, however ill-informed, is made. South it will be. Immediate needs now press upon them. A collective effort turns towards the surf, each man and woman driven by the urge to salvage anything of use from the wreckage. Among the barnacle-encrusted rocks, Haberly discovers the bloated forms of drowned pigs and drags them towards the fragile shelter pieced together from the ship's torn canvas sails. He ventures into the foamy shallows again, his hands closing around a set of carpenter's tools, their wooden handles slick with seawater. As he trudges back to the makeshift camp, he suddenly halts. Before him stands a group of men, their dark bodies smeared with red ochre, wooden weapons held aloft. The young Englishman freezes. The scene solidifies with a chilling clarity. A tense silence descends, the two groups locked in a silent appraisal. One of the men gestures towards the tools. Haberly instinctively tightens his grip, a knot of defiance in his chest. A guttural murmur rises from the Pondo men, their spears lifting with an unspoken threat. Every instinct screams at Haberly to flee, but before he can move, second mate William Shaw's sharp voice cuts through the charged air, ordering his apprentice to relinquish the tools. Reluctantly, Haberly obeys, casting the salvaged implements at the warrior's feet. It is a tense encounter, and one that casts a long, ominous shadow over the uncertain days to come. The following morning, the survivors gather on the cool sand of Lambazi Bay. Their gazes, a blend of weary resolve and dawning despair, fixed southward towards the distant cape. Coxon, now hatless, his once proud bearing diminished, begins issuing orders. The meager remnants of their provisions are portioned out, each scrap a precious link to survival. Unseen, from the fire-scarred hillside overlooking the bay, a silent audience watches. The Pondo people, their curiosity piqued by the arrival of these strange, pale-skinned newcomers, observe the unfolding scene. Coxon, his voice attempting a semblance of command, stresses the crucial need for unity. They are one group, he declares, and together they will face whatever lies ahead. It is a pronouncement of solidarity, noble in its intent, but one that the harsh realities of this land will soon test. Their long journey south begins. A somber line of figures moving along the shore, their burdens heavy with dwindling supplies and the weight of their predicament. Lascars strain under the makeshift litter carrying the ailing chief mate, Alexander Logie, whose condition has worsened since the wreck. Leading them, Thomas Beale holds aloft a crude flag made from scraps of canvas, its Dutch colours, a defiant, perhaps naive statement on this foreign coast. The Pondo shadow their progress. A rhythmic chanting drifts from the nearby hills, an unsettling sound that amplifies the castaways' growing unease. Suddenly, the tension snaps. Young Pondo warriors erupt from the hillside, charging towards them in a swift, terrifying wave. Coxon steps forward, a bayonet fixed to a stick his only defense. His condescending words, the same tone he used with his own sailors, are lost on the wind. The Pondo chief, a towering presence draped in a bull hide, needs no translation to understand the disrespect. With a swift move, he disarms Coxon and strikes him hard, sending the captain sprawling onto the sand. Panic seizes the survivors. Shaw lunges forward, only to be restrained by strong hands. They are outnumbered, hopelessly outmatched. Their only recourse is flight. They dash towards the rocks, Shaw casting a fleeting glance over his shoulder. The Pondo are already upon Coxon, tearing at his clothes. Buttons are ripped from his coat, but he manages to escape and joins the running sailors. Their desperate flight leads them to a river. An estuary blocks their path, its waters a daunting obstacle for those who cannot swim. Weary legs carry them upstream, their search for a crossing becoming a 2-kilometer trudge. Finally, they reach a shallow ford and wade across with cautious steps. This very estuary, the Mkweni, now marked by a thatched holiday home on its northern bank, would one day hold a different significance. A century and a half into the future, trading ships would anchor here, and a man from Durban named Sidney Turner would use it as a base for his relentless hunt for the Grosvenor's lost treasures. He would name the place Port Grosvenor, a name it retains today, even though its time as a working port lasted only a few short years. The following day brings a fragile glimmer of hope. 60 figures appear on the horizon, indigenous people marching in formation, a leader at their forefront. Initial fear gives way to a collective sigh of relief. These people seem peaceful. Coxon sends a man forward with a piece of gold lace. The exchange is swift and welcome. Sweet potatoes and bread are offered in return for the glittering thread, a small victory against their gnawing hunger. Soon after the marching group disappears, another figure emerges. This man has lighter skin, straight hair, and speaks in Dutch. One of the survivors, recognizing the language, translates. His name is Trout, a Javanese slave who has escaped the harsh rule of the Dutch and found refuge among the Pondo. Trout listens as the desperate castaways outline their plan to reach the distant Cape Colony. His reply is sobering, shattering their fragile optimism. He speaks of countless tribes, vast deserts, the constant threat of wild animals, and rivers impossible to cross. Trout's words paint a grim reality, a truth Coxon chooses to conceal from the already demoralized group. Driven by desperation, Coxon pleads with Trout to guide them, promising any reward upon their arrival at the Cape. But fear holds Trout captive. The memory of Dutch cruelty, the ever-present threat of re-enslavement or worse, is too powerful. As Trout turns to leave, he offers one final, chilling piece of advice. Stay by the coast. The tribes inland, he warns, would surely kill them all. The march begins to take its toll. By the end of their second day on foot, the Italian sailor Nardini, his body ravaged by illness, collapses. Coxon, still clinging to the illusion of unity, orders the sailors to construct another hammock. But their own strength is failing, already burdened by the ailing chief mate Logie. They refuse, and so Nardini is left behind, the survivors' vow of solidarity shattered in 2 days. Foot-weary, hope dwindling with each stride, they press onward. Then, the stark beauty of the Lupatana cliffs rises before them. Here, a waterfall, known now as Waterfall Bluff, plunges 200 feet into the ocean, its thunderous roar a constant echo of their isolation. The vast Indian Ocean stretches out, a tangible reminder of their exile. As dusk begins to paint the sky, they find what little shelter the valley offers, the waterfall's ceaseless drone, now a somber lullaby for the lost. Dawn rips apart the fragile piece of sleep. A Pondo band reappears, their eyes reflecting the same hunger for the dwindling supplies. This time, the sailors will not yield. Coxon, his composure now shattered, engages a Pondo warrior in a desperate struggle, the sting of a fresh cut igniting his fury. The boatswain, pushed past breaking point, unleashes a brutal assault, his fists driving down until his own crew pulls him back, leaving the Pondo warrior unconscious in the bloodied grass. The Pondo retreat, but it is a brief respite. They return with vengeance, 400 warriors strong. The coastline transforms into a chaotic battlefield, a brutal clash lasting 3 grueling hours. On a nearby hill, the women and children huddle, witnesses to this terrifying spectacle. Driven by sheer desperation, the sailors launch a ferocious charge, the united front finally pushing the Pondo back towards their huts. Miraculously, though many men are injured, no lives are lost. Following this skirmish, a harsh truth dawns. The Pondo will take what they desire, and resistance is now understood as pointless. Injuries are tended to, and then a figure reappears, the Javanese man, Trout. It's a bizarre sight, salvaged copper, iron, draped in the captain's nightgown. He is an unsettling reminder of their vulnerability. Coxon pleads for assistance, but his words meet only silence. Trout, once a potential source of help, now feels almost menacing in his quiet presence. Despite the unease he creates, the survivors follow the direction Trout has taken. It's a vague heading in a completely unknown land. They arrive at the Mboiki River, where Pondo settlements line the banks. Old men, women, and children appear, their curiosity seemingly stronger than any fear. For the hungry sailors, a glimmer of hope appears. Cattle graze nearby, a tempting promise of food. But Coxon, now refusing any interaction with the locals, dismisses their urgent requests. Sensing his hesitation, the Pondo retreat to their huts, leaving the survivors with nothing but the lingering thought of what might have been. Night descends as the weary group reaches the banks of the Mboiki River, settling in for a meager rest. As darkness deepens, unspoken tensions and anxieties simmer. A clear division is forming between the passengers and the crew. The sailors are rapidly losing faith in their captain's ability to guide them to safety. His clear favoritism towards the wealthier passengers, coupled with his dismissive attitude towards the crew, men far more experienced in hardship and survival, breeds resentment. Their slow progress, barely 20 kilometers due to the ailing chief mate Logie, only fuels their discontent. The haunted expression in Mary Jose's eyes, the swollen, weary feet of a pregnant Lydia Logie, these are stark reminders of their desperate plight. Provisions are dwindling rapidly, and the prospect of safety remains hundreds of miles distant. Increasingly, the men find themselves looking to one man, a man who gives cause for confidence, second mate William Shaw. The following morning breaks, and any semblance of unity amongst the survivors shatters. Along the southern horizon, a multitude of Pondo people appear on the beach. Coxon, his authority now a distant memory, offers a weak instruction. Everyone is to remain seated. Anxiety soars as the Pondo begin to strip the castaways of their remaining valuables. Mary Jose makes a desperate attempt to conceal her jewels in her hair, but grasping hands quickly find them. Her husband, William, bound by Coxon's ineffective command, can only watch her distress, his respect for the captain dissolving into bitter resentment. For the sailors, this moment is the proverbial straw that breaks the camel's back. Survival now eclipses loyalty. Their practical instincts clash with Coxon's naive beliefs. Amidst the growing chaos, a group of sailors, led by Shaw, sees an opportunity and flees. They plunge into the dense riverine forest, their hearts pounding with the singular focus of self-preservation. They find a brief pause beside a small river. This group consists mainly of sailors, a few lascars, and, surprisingly, a handful of passengers. The merchants Williams and Taylor, their fortunes lost but their spirits intact, and the retired Captain Talbot with his devoted servant, Isaac Blair. A particularly sharp blow to Coxon is the defection of his own servant, Robert Price, who chooses to follow Shaw instead. And then there is Thomas Law, just 7 years old. This Anglo-Indian boy, sent by his wealthy father to England for his education, now finds himself an unexpected member of this desperate band. Despite his youth and the potential challenges he represents, the men make a unanimous decision. Thomas stays with them. If necessary, they will carry him, sharing the burden. In the trials ahead, the boy's presence will ignite a spark of profound humanity within these men, a testament to the enduring power of compassion in the face of unimaginable hardship. Shaw's party, a diverse group of 50 Europeans and 20 Lascars, immediately faces its first obstacle. The gentle coastal cliffs give way to a dense, unforgiving forest. A full day's struggle yields a mere 2 miles. Their bodies ache, their stomachs twist with hunger. Finally, they emerge at the summit of a jungle-covered cliff, and their eyes widen at the daunting view below. The Umzimvubu River, a formidable presence, snakes through the landscape. Its waters conceal the forgotten stories of past shipwrecks, the ghostly echoes of Cabrera's Portuguese, the faded dreams of the survivors of the Javanese, the Bonaventura, and the Good Hope. Unbeknownst to Shaw, he and his fellow castaways are not the first to seek salvation here, and they will certainly not be the last. The sheer scale of the river mirrors the uncertainty that lies before them, a chilling premonition of the trials yet to come.
We're incredibly grateful to have a sponsor for this season of More Than a Story, and not just any sponsor, but one deeply connected to the very tale we're telling. Lambazi Lodge is supporting the show this season, and we're genuinely thrilled to introduce them to you. Explore the untamed wild coast and come away with unforgettable memories of the warm hospitality, the beautiful surroundings, and the sense of peace that lingers long after you leave. Just a short walk from the tunnel where treasure hunters once searched for the Grosvenor's lost riches, Lambazi Lodge offers a front row seat to history. But it's more than a historical landmark. It's the perfect base for families, fishermen, hikers, and adventurers looking to explore the untamed beauty of the wild coast. To plan your own escape, visit lambazilodge.com and use the promo code MoreThanAStory10 to get 10% off your booking during designated dates.
The wild coast sun beats down, its light shimmering on the broad expanse of the Umzimvubu River. On the northern bank stands William Shaw and his exhausted companions. Fed by snowmelt from the distant Lesotho mountains, the river surges. A formidable obstacle, few among them possess the strength to swim across. 500 feet above, sheer cliffs, known as the Gates of St. John, tower on either side, the dense coastal forest pressing in on the riverbanks. No crossing seems possible here. Hope, already fragile, begins to dwindle. Shaw dispatches 3 of his men to scale the treacherous cliffs, their mission to find any sign of a path forward. As darkness descends, the three weary figures reappear. Their news, however, is a welcome spark in the encroaching night. Though the treacherous terrain will prevent them from moving until morning, they have found a potential route. A collective sigh of relief sweeps through the group. They gather firewood, the crackling flames a comforting presence against the vast darkness, and for a few precious hours, the promise of a path rekindles their nearly extinguished hope. The morning sun beckons them onward. They clamber up the cliff face, tracing a faint cattle path that snakes through the dense forest. The path, more suggestion than thoroughfare, demands a toll of sweat and toil as the men hack and slash their way through the undergrowth. Hours pass, then another river, a tributary to the Umzimvubu, stops them cold. Despair takes hold. One sailor simply collapses, his spirit broken, his body refusing to go on. Seeing an opportunity, a dozen Lascars, driven by self-reliance, desert the group. 2 Italian sailors, Bianco and Pero, join them, their shared nationality a bond in this harsh land. Those who remain find new resolve. Broken branches, fallen trees, they drag them to the riverbank, lashing them together with vines. A makeshift raft begins to take shape. Williams and Taylor take command. With strong strokes, they ferry their comrades across the 80-meter stretch. Time stretches and the vine bindings begin to fray. Finally, only one man remains, Captain Talbot, a veteran of the Mysore Wars, his body now bearing the marks of age and hardship. With a final burst of strength, he reaches the opposite bank, utterly spent. He falls beneath the shade of a tree, his faded blue coat with its tarnished gold braid standing out against the vibrant green of the African landscape. His loyal servant, Isaac Blair, offers to stay by his side, but Talbot urges him to press on with Shaw's group. A heavy silence falls over the men as they contemplate their next move. The unspoken law of survival, harsh and unforgiving, holds sway. Even a captain, his rank a symbol of authority on the open seas, is just another man in the unforgiving wilderness. With a heavy heart, they resume their march, leaving Talbot behind, a solitary figure against the vast African backdrop, his life ebbing away under a foreign sky. Days bleed into nights as Shaw's splintered group pushes upriver, desperately seeking a ford. Their meager diet of crabs, berries, sorrel, and celery barely sustains them. A moment of hope arrives with the bartering of buttons for milk, quickly extinguished by the weary retreat of locals guarding their cattle. The wilderness claims more of them. 25 men vanish, their strength and will eroded. 5 days pass before they find a shallow section of river. They cautiously wade across and turn back to the relative safety of the coast. Young Master Law, though still bearing the visible scars of the recent catastrophe, possesses a spirit that refuses to be extinguished. His quiet resilience begins to resonate amongst the shaken survivors. He becomes an unexpected beacon, living proof of the enduring power of hope even in the face of overwhelming tragedy. By his side stands Henry Lilburn, the ship's steward, a man of quiet strength and unwavering dedication. Lilburn has taken it upon himself to shield the young master from the worst of the unfolding horrors. Even in these brutal times, where desperation often breeds cruelty, his loyalty shines as a constant, a steadfast protector, ensuring young Master Law's safety and offering a silent promise of continued guardianship. The abandonment of Captain Talbot, a visible reminder of the survival of the fittest, prompts a crucial pact. The merchants, Williams and Taylor, offer their remaining provisions and entrust their lives to the seasoned guidance of Shaw and Haberley. Shaw, recognizing their courage, agrees. Almost immediately, their fortunes appear to change. A trail leading them towards the coast delivers them to a group of locals unlike any encountered before. These men are friendly, offering unexpected aid. Haberley will later recall the wonder of this encounter. A young bullock was offered for a gold watch chain, slaughtered and shared. Milk traded for mere buttons. Fires blaze, and for the first time in days, the starving men taste cooked meat. Even the bullock's hide is fashioned into makeshift shoes. For Shaw's increasingly desperate company, this encounter feels like a profound shift. The harshness of this African shore seems to dissolve in the warmth of this shared meal and newfound camaraderie. Hope reignites. Perhaps, finally, they have stumbled upon a welcoming land. They eat their fill, oblivious to the insidious threat that now replaces the dangers of the wilderness, the slow, agonizing grip of starvation. Little did William Shaw realize, as he savored his first proper meal in days with this seemingly friendly tribe, that a crucial opportunity was slipping away. These people, who offered food and fire, were likely the Amachoman, a Pondo clan with a history of sheltering shipwrecked Europeans. Decades before, they had taken in Bessie, another survivor of the sea. Had Shaw known of this connection, a short journey to their village could have changed everything. At the time of the Grosvenor's wreck, Bessie was still alive. Though now aged around 50 years old and speaking only in the language of her adopted people, a meeting with another European castaway would surely have sparked recognition, perhaps even a shared understanding that could have altered the course of Shaw's decisions. But fate, it seemed, had other designs. Bellies full, but minds completely in the dark, the group rested on a hillside overlooking the vast ocean, oblivious to the astonishing truth that just a few miles away, European castaways lived peacefully as members of an African community. The next day finds the weary survivors stumbling back towards the coast. Weeks have now passed since the Grosvenor's demise, and despite their punishing trek, they have covered a mere 50 kilometers. The Cape lies hundreds of kilometers away, and the terrain ahead offers only further hardship. For weeks, the dwindling group trudges southward, their rhythm dictated by the tides. Low water reveals a meager bounty of shellfish, while the fading daylight hours are consumed by the vital task of gathering wood for fires, their fragile defense against the unseen terrors of the African night. This is an untamed land where the hunt is a way of life, and predators, lions, leopards, hyenas, hold dominion, their presence a constant, gnawing dread for the Europeans. The 30-kilometer stretch of coastline between the Umzimvubu and Mnenu rivers becomes a desolate graveyard. One by one, the sailors succumb to the brutal realities of hunger, illness, and sheer exhaustion, each left behind to the wilderness. Those who still cling to life bury their fallen comrades in the shifting sand, only to later discover the horrifying evidence of their exhumation, the unmistakable drag marks and telltale signs that their friends have become meals for nocturnal predators. Another week crawls by, each day a near impossible trial. The survivors scale treacherous seaside cliffs and risk their lives swimming across swollen rivers, their bodies and spirits pushed to their absolute limits. Finally, they reach the Mnenu River, their strength utterly depleted, their very will to continue fading with each step. Their leader, William Shaw, once a beacon of hope, now mirrors the profound despair that grips his men. He declares he can go no further along the coast, and in a moment of desperation, he proposes a perilous gamble: to abandon the coast and head inland, seeking aid from the locals. The fragile unity of the group shatters. Some, clinging to the meager sustenance the coastline offers, refuse to deviate from their path. Others, swayed by Shaw's desperate plea, are willing to risk the unknown dangers that lie beyond the shore. And so, less than 80 kilometers from the site of their shipwreck, the group splinters once more. William Shaw, accompanied by 21 others, including Haberley, the merchants Williams and Taylor, Alaska, and a small band of remaining sailors, turn their backs on the sea and venture into the interior. The remaining 23, now led by the ship's carpenter, Thomas Page, and including young Master Law, Henry Lilburn, and Coxon's young servant, Robert Price, press on with their southward march along the coast, praying that they are nearing the Dutch settlements, but unaware that they still have over 400 kilometers to go. Darkness falls quickly on a grass-covered hill north of the Mtata River as William Shaw jabs his burning branch into the dry grass. Embers catch, and a sudden flame pushes back the night. 21 survivors huddle around the fragile light, their only defense against the unseen dangers. Hours before, claw marks near a shallow grave had spoken of a wild predator. Now, fear mingles with the constant ache of hunger in their bellies. 3 days have passed since they left the carpenters' group. Their desperate trek inland has yielded nothing. John Taylor leans against the mud wall of an abandoned hut, a look of despair on his face. The sharp smell of his bullock hide shoes rises, a grim reminder of their starvation. Driven by instinct, he tears off a leather strap and chews it. One by one, others follow, the sounds of choking filling the quiet night. The next morning, the sunrise offers no comfort for Shaw, a stark reminder of his weakening state. He rouses the others, their bodies stiff and sore as they slowly rise to their feet. A brief meeting confirms that they must return back to the sea, their only hope of finding food. As they follow a trail back towards the coastline, they find footprints in the sand, and, following them, come across a local fisherman returning to his homestead. The mussels he shares are a small relief, but their spirits sink again at the sight of the wide, impassable Mtata River. 2 more days pass before they find a way across, wading through water where hippos and elephants, creatures foreign and frightening to European eyes, move like shadows. 5 more men are too weak to continue, left behind. 16 remain as they reach the sea, their search for food now desperate. As dusk settles, Haberley finds a sheltered spot beneath a mimosa tree, its thorny branches offering little protection from the biting wind. He approaches shore, a piece of the meager seafood clutched in his hand. His heart drops as he looks at the second mate. Shaw lies still, his body thin and wasted, the bones sharp against his skin. Haberley, who had sailed the seas with Shaw for 5 long years, fears the end is near. This man, whose unwavering courage has guided them through the wreck of the Grosvenor and the unforgiving journey south, now seems but a shadow. A silent understanding passes among the gaunt survivors. They cannot leave the second mate. They decide to stay for 3 more days, clinging to the faintest hope of his recovery, a fragile tether to their shared ordeal. Their time is spent in a desperate search for water and food, their bodies aching from the relentless march. Small, flickering fires are lit and watched, offering meager warmth and a fragile barrier against the unseen dangers of the wild. They try to make Shaw comfortable, shielding his gaunt frame from the elements and speaking quiet words of encouragement, though his vacant eyes give no sign of recognition. The brutal dawn, a searing indictment of their dwindling hopes, reveals a truth as chilling and undeniable as the rising sun. William Shaw, the Grosvenor's second mate, their steadfast anchor in a sea of despair, is dead. Grief ripples through the emaciated cluster, followed by a silence so profound that it seems to swallow the very air. Haberley, who had clung to Shaw's every word, seeing in him not just a superior, but a beacon of experience and resilience, feels the loss like a physical blow. They bury Shaw not with ceremony, but with a desperate, hurried reverence, the shifting sands already reclaiming their beloved comrade, even as they lower his body. Each handful of sand that falls feels like another layer of earth settling in their own hearts, burying not just Shaw, but a piece of their collective spirit. Grief mingles with a primal fear. How many more will this merciless coast claim? Their numbers, once a hopeful, if meager band, have now dwindled to a terrifying 9. The stakes are no longer just survival. They are the very essence of their humanity, fraying at the edges with each lost soul as they morbidly continue their trudge towards a distant salvation. Next week, we continue to trail these desperate survivors. We return to the captain and the passengers' fate, including William Jose and his family. Ahead lie new rivers to cross, new territories to traverse, and new dangers to face. Dangers that will test the very limits of their endurance and the fragile bonds that still hold them together. That's next week on More Than a Story. If you would like to get in touch or support the show, please take a look at our website linked in the show notes. Thanks again to Lambazi Lodge and Active Escapes for their continued support for this season. If you are enjoying the series, please take a moment to share and rate the show. Your support significantly boosts our visibility. The diverse and enchanting stories of Africa hold immense power, acting as vital threads in the tapestry of continental understanding and unity. By unpacking these tales, we gain profound insights into the shared human experiences and unique identities, ultimately contributing to a more cohesive and unified Africa.